So that works, and now we just add it to our cart. Well, there's two different scenarios. There's if our cart is empty, and then if our cart has more things in it. So what we can do is say if our front, because remember that's what our private variable is called, car front. If front is equal to null, which means it's empty, we're going to be inside of here and say front is equal to, we'll have a new car, and our new car is just going to have all the variables we passed in. So it's going to be the string parse int and then string 2. Otherwise, we can end this line and then we can come down here after we realize that I am not great at spelling, and then fall into an else statement. And this else statement is if we already have something in here. And we'll just say that our front is equal to new car, and then we are going to have string parse int string 2, and then this is almost it. Right now it looks very similar to our other one, and that's because it is. What we're doing here is we're basically going to be using the car class. We can see that we are making a new instance of our car, and if we come here we can see that we are using this public car, and we're passing in 3 things for if our front is null. Otherwise, we're going to be in the else statement, and we're going to be right here. So we need to pass in the next cart. Well, the next cart, if we already have other carts and we want to add this to the front, is just going to be the previous front. So we can just add this in here, and this is going to be our addFront method complete. Now we'll go back inside of here, and then we're going to keep running through this while loop until we have nothing else in our file. Once we have nothing else in our file, we are going to break out of here. And then when we break out of here, we want to sort our list. So we can just make a entirely new method for this. We'll have sortList, and then we can hover over it and create the method. And then we can make Java documentation for both of them. Now that we have this written out, we're going to be in our sortList. So in sortList, we're basically going to be doing a loop that will sort our entire list until there's nothing else to be sorted. And then we'll just return back into our train method. So in our sort list, we first need to see if our front is null. If our front is null, that means we're just going to have an empty train, and then we could just return this. It's always important to see if our front is null. So we'll be inside of here, and we can just do a sysout.println where we print empty train. Otherwise, we'll come down here and we'll fall in this else statement. In this else statement, we are going to make a few instances, or we're going to use a few things in our car class. So we are going to do car. We're going to be looking at the current thing, and we're going to be calling it current because it's our current thing, and we'll set it equal to the front. Now we're also going to look at the previous car because we're going to compare them, and we will do car previous, and we're going to set this equal to null. We're also going to be looking at the next car, so we're going to do car next, and this is equal to the next value. So if we initialize it, it's going to be front dot next. And then we're going to need to do this for every single car. So inside of this else statement, we're actually going to be in a large do while loop. We are going to do this, all of this, while, so we'll have our while down here, we have changed. And we're going to manipulate change inside of our do while loop because we want to run this at least once if it's not null, because we know we have at least something in here. So before we do this, we have to initialize or declare changed out front. So we are going to make a boolean changed, and then we are going to come down here, and then we are going to set changed equal to false, and then we'll be inside of a while loop that will compare every single thing while our next value is not null. It's going to compare it while it's not null because we need to, again, look at everything. And then when we're done, we'll break out of this loop, and then we'll say that we've changed everything, and then we'll break out of our do while loop and then just return. So we will have while next is not equal to null. We're going to be inside of here. We are going to have an if statement. And so if current dot, and then we're going to do stop. So we're going to be comparing the actual stops. That's super important. It's in the instructions. We are going to be comparing the actual place where we're stopping. We're organizing it by that. And so basically, if we go back to the notes, this second index, or technically the first index, is what we're ordering them by. And so we'll say if current.stop, so the value here, is greater than our next.stop, well, we know that we have to switch these. So we can set changed equal to true here. And then we are going to have an if statement. And inside of our if statement, we're going to say if previous does not equal to null, we're going to be inside of here. If previous does equal to null, that means we're at the very front of our list, because when we're dealing with linked lists, if we are passing in a null, that means we're pointing to the front. We're going to do car. We're making a new instance of it. We'll just call it temp. And we're going to set this equal to next dot, and we'll get the next value. And then we are also going to realize that I missed my cat and I accidentally put cat instead of car. So I'm going to fix that and write car. And then I'll write previous dot next, which will get the next value, is equal to next. And then we're going to say, well, our next dot next should be equal to our current value. Remember, because we're swapping these. And then we're going to say current dot next is equal to our temp value. And so this is all of this right here is just swapping the two values. Now we're going to have to do the same thing in our else statement, and this is only if our previous does not equal to null. So as long as we're not at the front, we're going to fall into this else statement. So inside of here, it's going to be the same exact code. We can just copy this and paste it inside of here. But there is going to be some differences. Instead of having previous here, this has to be front.next. So your car temp is equal to next.next. So we're going to get the front's next value, and this is going to change and update every time we go through this while loop. And then we have front.next is equal to our next. So our next front is the next value. And then we have this right here, which will swap it. So it's very similar to this. The only thing that changes is the front.next. And then after this, underneath this if-else statement, we're going to have to increment this. So we're going to have to set previous equal to the next value. And then we are going to say next is equal to our current dot next. So previous is basically what we've just looked at. So we can compare it to the next value, and then next is getting the actual next value. And this is all inside of this if statement. And this is only if our current stop is greater than the next stop. Otherwise, we're not going to do anything, and we're just going to go on to the next thing. So we would set previous equal to our current, and then we're going to set current equal to next, and then we're going to set next equal to next dot next. So we would get the next thing. We'll do this until we break out of this while loop, and then we're going to do this until we break out of this do while loop. And so this should only happen as long as changed is false. Otherwise, it will be true when we come in here. And that is all for our sort list. So this and our addFront are the two helper methods for our train constructor here. That is all for that.